Hey guys, for tonight's horror movie, I just finished watching a remake of a wonderful Swedish movie called Let the Right One In, which I love. And this time, though, I watched the American version, which I just recently picked up, called Let Me In. So I'm going to talk about Let Me In and contrast it perhaps a little bit with Let the Right One In right after this. Hey guys, like I said, this is on a Let Me In. Sorry for the lighting, but I'm just enjoying this subtle lighting here. It is actually the month of Halloween, so it seems appropriate to have all sorts of things like my Crystal Head Vodka Skull here. By the way, Crystal Head Vodka, man, this shit is awesome. And it comes with a cork. Oh, it's been a while. Oh, still smell the vodka. It's been a while since I drained this one. These are Dan Aykroyd owns this vodka company called Crystal Head or Crystal Skull vodka. Yeah, Crystal Head vodka, and a great vodka first of all, and second of all, get this really cool skull when you're done, which I enjoy. That aside, Let Me In and Let the Right One In. Let Me In, good remake. I think Let the Right One In is a better film for a number of reasons. Let Me In is certainly an Americanized, Hollywoodized version, and if you don't like to read Swedish subtitles, then maybe this is the way to go. First of all, the acting in this one, I would say, is at least as good as Let the Right One In. And particularly the on-screen talents of Chloe Grace Moretz, who plays the vampire in this, and Cody Smith McPhee, who plays the 12-year-old, approximately 12-year-old boy. Maybe he's 13. I don't know if I ever established his age. I really couldn't say. Some of the boys looked older than 13. He certainly looked younger. In any event, she's 12 and has been 12 for a really long time, as she says in the movie. A really nice take on the vampire genre. Both, of course, Let the Right One In, which is the original, based on the novel. And I thought that was a great movie. By the way, you can watch it on Netflix, I believe, still. And I would recommend you do. And then there's Let Me In. I'm glad I purchased Let Me In. I would say there's enough similarities between it and the original one that it holds up pretty well. And then there's enough different in it. They certainly have pushed the gore factor in this one more so than the first one. So if you like the gore, you'd probably like Let Me In. But I thought Let the Right One In was more subtle. Less was shown, and then therefore more was sort of left up to your imagination, which I always think is better. But there's a lot of people out there who really love the gore, and if you really love the gore, you might like let me in. I keep wanting to say let him in. Let me in or let her in. Let Me In. You might like it better. I liked both, and similar to The Last House on the Left, I think the remake has a point with this one. I don't always think that, but I do think with this one it sort of made sense to me why it was made. Again, I still think the original one's better. The premise is there's a girl and a person you believe to be her father who just move into the neighborhood. Young boy happens to see them. He's kind of the type of boy that always gets picked on. He's frail. He's pale. He almost looks like a vampire himself. But there's bullies in his class, three in particular. Well, one in particular, and he and his older brother are nasty nasties. And then the other ones are kind of like the sidekicks. You almost feel sorry for the one though. His brother's just a bastard, and he gets picked on by the brother. So I guess he picks on. It appears he picks on others because of it, but no excuse for bullying. And they bully this kid something bad. He has this baton that he whips the kid with in the face, and not a good group. Now the neighbor, the young lady, tells him, you just need to hit back harder than they do. And he said, well, what happens if that doesn't work? She said, well, it will work. He said, well, what if it doesn't? She said, well, then I'll be there and I'll help you. He said, but you're only a girl. And she says, well, I'm a lot stronger than you may think I am. It's a cute relationship, really. The vampire and the boy. You know, but you can see a lot of spoilers in this. You can see where this is headed. It's really kind of a poignant film. Hence the music here that's playing in the background from it. You know, he loves her, and I think she loves him. But the guy that we think is her father, we learn, is not. He's jealous of the boy. In fact, he says, stop seeing him. And then later, when it looks like he's going to be captured because he's foolishly gotten caught in the back of a car, trying to hide in the back of a car to get her next victim and drain the blood so that she can kind of be in the background so that she doesn't come into the limelight, so to speak, or the spotlight. He's trying to kill her prey, hang him by a tree and drain the blood as he does earlier in the movie. In fact, the boy stumbles upon him doing that. He's trying to do it that way so she doesn't have to actually bite into the neck of somebody and tear him up. Same result, but she stays out of it. And he can dispose of the body a lot easier and so on. Be more methodical about it. Well, this guy that we think is her father, we quickly realize when he shows his jealousy, and later when he's hospitalized after getting caught in this car, it crashes and the police get him. Of course, he has acid that he dumps all over his own face to hide his identity so that it will not come back to her. But we realize right before his death that he was in love with her, and probably, at that point we think, probably was with her for many, many years, maybe even from the same age as this boy is. Later on, when the main character, the boy, is in her apartment, he picks up a picture, an old picture, one of those things that's taken in little photo booths, and sees that you can clearly see a resemblance between the boy, the young boy that's in the photo with her. She looks identical to what she looks like now, of course. You can clearly see the boy is, in fact, the father. Which makes it even more poignant, I guess, the ending. You know, one thing that Let Me In did well, that Let the Right One In did differently, was in this one, you never see his mother's face. Nor do you ever see his father, nor is his father ever really a presence other than a voice on a phone. You kind of see the profile of the mother with her hair kind of obscuring her face, or you kind of see like one eye, but you never see. It's kind of like in that Home Improvement, the neighbor there was, you know, all the fence was always like this, right? Howdy, neighbor. It's kind of like that kind of a deal. You never see really any of the adults are always kind of obscure, other than the police officer and this guy that was supposed to be her father. Everybody else is sort of obscured in some fashion, like the guidance counselor. We just see her through the crack in a door. Oh, we see the coach, I guess. But for the most part, adults don't seem to play a real part in the world. And that's interesting because in the end, she is found, well, she's more or less found out. The police officer realizes, puts two and two together. She has to, she goes on a rampage and kills somebody kind of with a witness. So she's sort of identified. Of course, the police officer gets killed trying to pin her down in her apartment, or he kicks the door in. But now she's got to move. Clearly, his body's there. And in the end, what I thought was going to happen didn't. And I can understand why. Well, first of all, near the end, the bullies, he has a big fear of drowning. He can't swim. And they threaten him on numerous occasions to throw him in the water. And finally, they get the coach to leave the pool area by lighting a dumpster on fire. And when the coach gets out, they lock the door in the school. And now they order everybody out of the pool, and they throw this boy in the pool. The older brother's now there. And he says, either hold your breath for 3 minutes or I'm going to put your eye out. One thing, well, it looks like the boy's going to die, which I thought what would happen is he'd die, and then somehow she would bring him back, or right before death or something, she'd turn him into a vampire and they'd live together. That's what I thought was going to happen. No. Before he dies, though he looks like he's about ready to, all of a sudden you see like things flying through the water. I thought it was bullets at first. No. Then you see a head come into the water. No body, just a head and a lot of blood. And you realize right away that she's taking care of business. And finally she pulls him out of the water. And the next scene is that he's on a train, and he gives his ticket to the conductor. And the conductor asks if that's his luggage or case in front of him. Or was that his trunk? That's really what it was. It's a fairly large trunk in front of him. And we know that she's inside of it. And moments later, she knocks on the inside of the trunk, and he knocks back, kind of a Morse code that they'd developed for each other, talking through the walls in their apartment. And we realize now that he is going to be adapting the role that the guy that was the father had. He's going to be now looking after her because she can't travel during the day, and he can. So interesting, poignant, sad. His parents were going through a divorce, so you can see that he's really not connected to their world at all. It's hard to imagine. I'd love to see a sequel. What do they do? So he's this young boy. Obviously they're gonna have money because she'll kill and get the people's money. But it seems like their existence will be strange. And perhaps that's what it was before the older gentleman that we thought was her father before he became an older gentleman. Maybe it was like that when they were younger. Maybe it was odd like that and they made it, so we can assume that might happen again. Really, though, I thought it was a well-done story. The contrast between the violence that she exhibits when she kills, and she does exhibit some violence, versus the tenderness she has with this boy. The child world that those two have, and the purity of it in a lot of ways, versus the adult world, which is kind of ugly, and his parents are going through divorce, and the cop really isn't a very nice person. It doesn't seem like, and it seems like their world is purer than the adult world, I guess. So I mentioned the contrast between the violence and when there's their love, or what seems like love anyway. And the fact that they really can't have that. I mean, she obviously can't experience or doesn't appear to be able to experience love in the traditional sense. She's not going to get old. I don't think sex is really a thing. She obviously can't eat other than blood. And she gets this little bit of a problem that she turns into more of a creature, more of a monstrosity as she desires the blood. So there's going to be that issue from forever until he dies, I guess. It's an interesting movie. I really liked it a lot. And it seems like I can't get away from Stephen King, because on the front cover it says the best American horror film of the last 20 years, Stephen King. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's maybe an 8. I'd say this is an 8, and let the right one in is a 9. That's fair enough. I think the first one's better, but not so much better where it's night and day, but better. So I really liked Let Me In, like Let the Right One In better. And other than being subtle, the subtleties, I don't think the gruesomeness was necessary, but I can see where some people would like it. So I would say from that standpoint, Let the Right One In was more refined, more delicate, more perhaps more haunting in a way, I guess would be partly what I'd say. Let Me In was more Hollywood-esque, but there's a place for that. And I think would appeal to American audiences probably more in general. Certainly the mainstream audience, maybe not the true horror fans, the folks that own every version and have them in 4 languages and everything else. Those fans, I think, would clearly like Let the Right One In my opinion, that they would like them. I like it better. But I think for mainstream people, people who are going to go to the theater, They're probably not going to go see a Swedish film. It's not going to happen. It's an independent Swedish film. They're not going to see it. So there's a place for this one, and I think it's a good enough story where it was worth telling to an American audience, and from that standpoint, I liked it. So maybe this is a 7.5, and the other one's a 9. I don't know. It's something like that. I don't think they're too far off, but the original one is better. But I think this is enjoyable, and I'm glad I own it. For the $3 I think I paid for it, I'm very happy to own it, and I will watch it again, and I will watch the extras on here. There's quite a few extras on this one, so I'll watch that too. And then if I can get this digital copy to work, there's a digital copy with it, I'll throw that on my iPad, because I'd like to have that on the iPad too. I liked it a lot, and it's the advantage of an English film over a Swedish film for me is I can pop this thing in sometime, and unlike a Swedish film, I have to pay attention to the Swedish film. With this one, since I've already seen it once now, I could probably let it play as I'm doing something else and just catch the moments I want to catch as I hear things that catch my interest. The Swedish film, I can sort of do that with the music crescendoing and things, but anyway, I tend to want to watch foreign language. I tend to want to focus on them. Guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this semi-comparison of Let Me In with Let the Right One In. Bottom line, Let Me In, good movie, worth seeing. Let the Right One In, better movie. Definitely worth seeing. Netflix is the way to see that one for free. So why not? That's it. That's day 5 of the 31 Days of Horror. And hopefully you're enjoying watching it. I'm enjoying doing it. It was my first love was for movie genres was horror. First love, and you know, you never forget, I guess, right? You never forget the first one, and in this case, that's true with horror. For me as a kid, those were the movies I gravitated towards. You know, whether they be Abbott and Costello meeting Frankenstein, or Frankenstein, or the Wolf Man, or the Creature from the Black Lagoon, or the Colossal Man, or there's just so many of them. It's hard to the Blob, the original The Blob. You know, all these movies were great. And the ones with the giant spiders, I always thought was pretty cool. Cheap, and you could tell it was, you know, but it didn't matter. It was cool when you were a kid. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back tomorrow with another one. Take care.